You are now entering Nick and Mello's hyperspace.
Hello, I'm Carmelo, and I think one of the things that I love about Star Wars art is how artists get to own Star Wars. They get to do what they want to do with Star Wars.
And I'm Nick, and I think I'm in a similar boat as Carmelo. I love seeing different artists do mashups and in different interpretations of how they view Star Wars.
In our journey through hyperspace, we examine everything and anything Star Wars from the point of view of two lifelong fans, one young, one old, who came together through the will of the Force.
And in this episode, we have a very special guest. We are doing a new series where we're going to kind of interview artists and specifically artists that do a lot of Star Wars work. We want to talk about their journeys and kind of showcase some of their work. And today we have a wonderful guest, Mr. Caleb King. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you a lot.
Yeah, it's my absolute pleasure, gentlemen. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I think we're just going to, because we're a Star Wars podcast, and we just kind of want to get your little history on you. What is your first experience with Star Wars?
My first experience is one I don't even remember, but it's been told to me by my parents over and over again. So I'm an elder millennial / xennial, right? I'm 46 years old. So I was born in 1977, and my father, the year of our Lord Darth Vader, the year of our Dark Lord. My dad was really wanting to go see Star Wars, from what I understand, and couldn't find a sitter, and my mom was sick. So he took me as an infant. Here I am, 6 months old. Took me as an infant. He was that guy, at the movie theater, bringing his kids. I sat through the whole thing, apparently, and just slept. But I was there. I was there.
Subliminal messages.
Right.
That's cool.
And then later, I remember going to see The Empire Strikes Back. I remember going to see Return of the Jedi. And my dad did this thing where he took me in advance of Empire to Toys R Us. And I got to go pick out one of the old Kenner action figures. He's just like, pick one. And then your job is you got to find whoever you get in the movie. Right. So you got to be on the lookout. And it was his way of keeping me occupied because, what little kid is going to sit still in a movie? The fact that I had this little action figure, I'm like, okay, I got to find it. I don't even remember which character it was. It was probably just like a stormtrooper. I'm like, found it. But there's 100 of them. Which one is he? So then when the prequels came out, I took my dad to go see them all.
Nice.
So we got to see all of those in theater, and the only ones that we couldn't go see together the first time were the sequel trilogy. But we still did manage to kind of get all of those in, at some point. So
wonderful.
That's cool. Wonderful. Yeah. That's a really cool story. I like that.
I love that.
Well, thanks.
I love the idea of being a baby in arms, being in the presence of the very first movie. That's just I mean that's stuff for a novel. That's the first chapter of a novel.
You literally were there at the beginning.
I was there from the I am as old as they can get,
my God,
original.
That's awesome.
Right.
Right. Caleb, can you tell us and tell the audience a little bit about your sort of visual art origins? Like, how did you get into the idea of creating visual art?
I grew up with a father who was very artistic. He from a young age, he was obsessed with World War II and building models and dioramas. He would buy model kits, put them together, and just taught himself how to paint those models and would draw, had notebooks of, drawings and technical things related to tanks and airplanes and ships and all kinds of stuff. And in fact, he was so obsessed with it that when he was 16, he had a friend who was really, they had some kind of fight between the two of them. And his friend thought it would be funny to send word to the FBI that my father was planning on building bombs. And so the FBI, literally, no joke, the FBI came to their place, took photographs of every one of his journals, it detained him for a little bit. And then when they realized what was going on, they totally let him go with apologies. And his friend got in deep doo-doo. So anyway, so when I was growing up, my dad was building models and painting and drawing just for his own pleasure. So I would, kind of, hey, Dad, what's going on? And would check on him and see what was going on. And I watched him do some of this. And to me, it was always like magic. Like here you are just taking like ideas in your head and you're turning them into things that exist in the real world, right? As I was growing up then, I had a friend who introduced me to comic books when I was, 14, 15, somewhere in there. It was really cool because for the first time, like I'm seeing two different parts of my life collide in like my dad liked art and here's my friend who loves this art form in comic books. And I just started becoming obsessed with comics and I would try and like copy panels out of and they were terrible. I was like, I had no idea what I was doing. But I was always like very like I want somebody to tell me if I'm doing good or not, right? So I'd show my dad and he'd be like, oh, that's cool. Here, try doing this and try looking at this and seeing if you can get better, at these kinds of things. And so I'd be like, okay. Eventually started like getting into like anime as a result, but Vampire Hunter D, like old school anime stuff that a lot of people now are like, what are you talking about? Yeah. So eventually, you flash forward many, many years and I was at a Comic-Con in Chicago that was put on by a company called Wizard. They're no longer around.
Oh, yeah.
And I was wandering around and I came across this booth somewhere on the show floor and it was for this art school. And they had art from Jill Thompson and they had art from Alex Ross that they were showing. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. What is this? And I started talking to the gentleman who was there representing the school. And I took, information. I thought I would really love to learn how to draw and paint like professionally. I just think that would be the coolest thing on earth. So I kept it. And the idea persisted for weeks and months until eventually I turned to my wife at some point because, I'm an adult and married at this point. And, school wasn't something I was ever really thinking of again. And I said to her, I think I want to do this. I think I want to really learn how to do this. And so we talked about it and we made an appointment and I went to this school and they saw the work that I had been doing, which I think if I saw, I would have said, no, you're not coming to no, but I think they went, and to their credit, they're a school that teaches you how to do all of this. So I think as long as you show the will to do it,
right.
And of course can pay. That's always right. You got the will, but no money. Beat it, kid. But so yeah, I went and I went and had I had an amazing time in school. I loved it. And I came out of there with a love for painting and drawing. And that's where I really dove into watercolor. I said, I already have this kind of emotional connection to it. Now I'm gonna really, double down and sink into this. And that's what I still do to this day.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Incredible. So Caleb, you gave us an awesome history and fun story about how you got into art, but when specifically did you kind of think, oh, I can make Star Wars art and maybe make this kind of a career?
That's an interesting sequence of events that led to that. So what had happened is I had been kind of drawing and painting Star Wars stuff just kind of off and on my own for a couple of years. I had a couple of friends who had been doing professional work for Topps and Upper Deck, the trading card companies. And Upper Deck, they still produce mostly like their non-sports stuff. They produce a lot of Marvel work. I think they're still the license holder for like the trading cards and stuff. And one of the things that they offer as kind of like bonus cards, or what they call in the trading card business, they call hits. You get, one of the hits are sketch cards. That term is really deceiving because when you think sketch, you think of something quick. But no, that's not what they want. What they want are mini masterpieces. They want little 3.5 by 2.5 inch masterpieces, fully colored on the paper they send you. Basically, they send you a bunch of blank sketch cards. Depending on the set, some of the characters will actually be, their names are already written, like embossed in foil on these cards. And so like it'll say Colossus, and you're like, okay, cool. I guess I'm drawing Colossus on this. I don't have a choice. Okay. So you draw Colossus and then you paint him, or you use markers or something, but it has to be full color. That, at least that's upper deck. To be fair, that's upper deck. So you're doing these mini masterpieces. I started by doing them in marker. So I would just draw pencil ink and then hit them with marker. Each card would take me, when I started, about an hour and a half. Right.
Wow.
And you'd have to, that's too long now for me. Like if I'm spending that kind of time, I'm really working on them. So I did several sets for them. Like my first one was Spider-Man. I did a Guardians of the Galaxy set. And I really had a lot of fun because these were my first professional gigs. My friend introduced me to the art director. I said, hey, I'd love to work for you guys. Here's some samples of my work. They got back to me and said, yes, we'd love to have you, And so I was like, hey, I know you do work for Topps and they have the Star Wars license. I would love an introduction to the art director. And at the time, they weren't really supposed to do that, So my friend said, yeah, let's do this. Here's the email address. Don't tell anyone I gave this to you. And I was like, perfect. I will charm my way into work with this. So I sent the guy an email, samples of my work, and I didn't hear anything for like 3 weeks.
Wow.
And then I thought, okay, well, that went on deaf ears. I'll wait a few months and try again. But I didn't have to do that because I got an email a few days later, and he was like, hey, I'm so sorry I was out of the office. Yeah, I really like your work. I want to include you on this Star Wars set. So I was like, ooh, that sounds great. So my first actual Star Wars work was, I want to say it was August of 2017. And that would have been the Star Wars Masterwork trading card set. And what I liked about those cards is they were like extra thick. They were like the size of like 5 regular trading cards, sort of like little blocks. And they took paint really well. So I painted all of those. On a few of them, I did marker. And I think I did 80 cards for that set. These were just cards that, you'd buy a pack of cards, you'd open it. You had the chance of getting a sketch card from me or from the myriad of other artists who they got to do it.
So Caleb, let me ask you, because I am completely ignorant about trading cards.
Oh, it's okay.
The thing that you paint is literally what they get in the package?
Yeah, they get an original. No, they don't get a reproduction. They get the actual card itself. So
Holy crap. Okay.
Yeah. So I get sent like 80 cards, and I am literally drawing and painting on those cards. And then at the end, I have to send them scans so that they can send that stuff to the Lucasfilm approval team.
Right.
They have very specific rules on how characters can be depicted. I can't reveal all of that because I've signed contracts that say I can't. But it's awesome to see then later people who will send you pictures on Instagram or Facebook. Hey, I opened a pack today and I got this card. I just wanted to tag you to let you know it was found. Your art was found in the wild. And I'm like, oh, I love that. I love that idea that like I draw these things and then release them. Yes, they're like little tiny Star Wars Pokemon.
Right.
Yeah. So that's always great. And then that led to, after my first set I did with them, I got an invitation from Mark Von Olen, who was the art director at the time for the Star Wars stuff. And I think now he's gone on to other things in Topps, inviting me to create what's called a base card. And a base card are the reproduced pieces in a trading card set. So if like the base trading card set is, 150 cards, right? One of those cards is mine. And so I was one of 50 artists from the Topps roster who was invited. And there was a lot of artists that are in my Facebook group that where all Tops artists, we talk and share and stuff like that. And there's
fun.
a lot of artists who had been there for years that did not get that invite. And here's Caleb right after the first set, like, yay, what's this?
That's
this
awesome.
must be cool. Yeah. I remember the chatter, like, you have to work for Lucasfilm for years and years and years to get invited to this set. And I'm over here like, this was my first set. Hi. Am I supposed to be in this club? Did I get invited by a mistake?
The new kid on the block.
Well,
Right,
congratulations. That's amazing.
Right. So what was really cool is we got to pitch the idea of what we wanted to create. So we were like, what would we do? So I came up with this trio of images that I thought of, like, how in any, like, I'm assuming in North Korea, in some bureaucrat's office, there is a picture of Kim Jong-un or Kim Jong-il, right? And so I was like, well, what's in the bureaucrat's office on the Death Star? Like what do they have, to, like, yes, there's our glorious leader, Emperor Palpatine, right? Or Lord Vader or whatever. So I thought, what would be fun is to do 3 different images of the different leaders of the empire, right? So I did one of Vader, and he's kind of depicted as like a Catholic saint. He is very regally standing and staring at the camera, but behind him, his halo is the original Death Star.
Oh, wow.
And so then I did one of Palpatine, and he has the Death Star too. And then I did one of Snoke, and he had Starkiller Base behind him.
Okay.
So it was kind of like
That's
connecting. Cool. Yeah. And they were like, we love these ideas, but we're only taking one of them because we only have allotment of one per artist. So they said, we love Palpatine, so let's do that. So I ended up doing this whole painting of Emperor Palpatine with the Death Star 2 behind him as like a halo. That was so cool because that was my first real official painting, commissioned by Lucasfilm themselves, not just Tops, but it's Lucasfilm. And so that really put me in the realm of licensed Star Wars artist.
Right.
Now I can't sell those images. I'm not licensed to sell my own work, which is a bummer. So that's how that works.
Yeah.
But now, like, I can apply to go to Star Wars Celebration as a visiting artist. I got so many letters of people from all over the world saying that they got my card, that they loved it. Can they send me some to have me sign them for their collection? So I was getting letters for about 6 months from all over the world with self-addressed stamped envelopes of people, including with letters. And, like, I was just signing cards and mailing them back to people. I felt like a real, like, rock star for that little bit.
Great. How do we go from trading cards to what I call the dripping portraits of Star Wars?
So I had already been kind of creating the Star Wars, the drip paintings for a while. Those came about due to, like, this massive internal crisis that I had. I was creating pieces that were very, very derivative. There was nothing that I myself think that there was nothing special about the work I was creating at the time. Struggling to make my artwork stand out in a Comic-Con artist alley.
Right. I'm going to share the screen with one of your images while you talk about them. So
sure.
The audience can see it.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, yeah.
Those are pretty. Who did those?
They're beautiful.
So I was really struggling before this. I literally remember the day I had enough, and I had a convention coming up in about 6 weeks. And I just wasn't going to share the work that I had anymore. So I got, like, the enormous recycling bin that the city provides us to throw our recycling in. And I walked out to it with every print and every original painting that I had, and I threw them right in the trash. And I was like, I'm done. I'm no longer going to work like this. So I have 6 weeks to create new work before a convention. And that includes, like, getting the prints in hand to sell and all of that. So I decided that I was not going to chase trends, and I was not going to just try to make work that I thought would sell. You know what I mean? I wanted to be genuine and true to myself which I hadn't been at that point.
Hmm.
So I was like, all right, so I'm going to create some parameters around what I create. I said, number one, I'm only going to paint things that I'm in love with. I'm not, so I don't care. I don't care if anyone else likes it. It's for me. I'm selfish. I'm an artist. I'm going to create only the things that I want to see. Number two, if I can't talk passionately about it, I'm not going to make a print about it. And number three, I'm going to do it in an aesthetic manner that I would love. If I wouldn't want to hang this on my own wall, then I'm not going to sell it. I'm not going to make it. So it's those kind of three principles that I started with. I had just this weird shaped piece of paper that I had cut off of a larger sheet. And I didn't want to throw it away because it's watercolor paper. So I thought, all right, let's get the ball rolling here. What's something I really love? And what can I do on this sheet of paper? And I wasn't intending to do anything with it other than just kind of get the creative process rolling. Right. It was going to be a sketch. Right. And I went, I don't want to do a landscape because, the paper was like, oddly shaped, and so I'm like, what if I did like this? What if I turned it this way and did something tall and long, very like tight crop kind of thing? And then I went, you know what? I have never painted Boba Fett. I've never painted Boba Fett before. So I'm gonna I think I'm gonna paint Boba Fett's helmet. So I pull up a picture on the internet of Boba Fett's helmet. I'm like, cool. Okay, so that's it. I'm gonna use that as my reference. I remember my watercolor teacher, the incredible painter named Matt Barber Kennedy, who is a Chicago artist as well. He always encouraged us to learn to master the watercolor, but also to work with it, because it's going to do on some level what it wants to do, and it's unpredictable and it can be chaotic.
It is tricky, yes.
So let it be chaotic. Let it be its own thing. Don't fight it. Work with it, right? Learn to accept less than your ideal. Learn to accept chaos, right? And so I thought, okay, this is going to be an example of control and chaos together. I'm going to control the paint for Boba Fett's helmet the best I can at the time that I painted it. And I'm also going to let the watercolor be chaotic. I'm going to let it drip and bleed and have drag marks and all this stuff. And let's see what happens. So that was the first one. And I put it on Facebook when it was done. And I was like, anybody like this? Like, what does anybody like? What do you guys think? This, what would you do with this? I'm not kidding you. Within 3 hours of posting it, somebody had driven to my house, handed me cash, and ran off with the painting.
That's awesome.
And that was when I realized
you could sell this.
Well, I went, oh my God, I didn't charge enough. Yeah, because it was like, I didn't know what, I mean, I sold the painting, I think, for $90.
Oh, wow.
$90. Yeah, $90. Because I didn't know. I didn't know at the time. Right. I'm half tempted to contact the person and go, hey, is it still in existence, or did you guys like throw it away? Can I buy it back from you? Because that was the first one. And I've since reproduced, you can kind of see it behind me. I've reproduced this on a giant canvas.
Yes.
I've got a canvas edition. It's like 36 inches tall, I think. And like, I forget how wide it is, but
wow.
That's the one that started it all for me. And I knew it like couldn't be the only one. It was going to be lonely. I don't want Boba Fett to be lonely. So, so I created a Darth Vader and then a Stormtrooper set. Looking at them, I thought, okay, to me, these are really amazing. I don't know if anybody else, I mean, sure, the one person bought Boba Fett, but would people want these as prints? Would people buy these? I had a few other pieces that I brought with me to that convention that was 6 weeks down the road. And all I sold were the Star Wars pieces.
Wow.
And from those three pieces, I mean, I made a small fortune, and I was blown away because I went from being really struggling to stay stable to better than stable. And it has continued to do that for me, many years later now.
How many Star Wars portraits have you done in that sort of vertical
Lord.
drip? I thought this would be an easy question. I'm sorry.
No, I've done so many.
I think I have all of them since I met you.
I have.
I'm missing Sabine because you made Sabine after I saw you.
Sabine was brand new. And in fact, I have already drawn out, and they are on the drawing, like the painting board, ready to go. I have 2 new ones.
Okay.
Ready to go. I have Commander Cody, the clone trooper, Commander Cody.
Yes.
He's drawn. That was a pain in the butt to draw because he's got that visor and all the little doodads and everything. So Cody is drawn. And then I just drew Paz Vizsla.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I'm so excited for that.
So, and the third one that's coming, I haven't drawn it out yet, is the Armorer. I'm going to have her as well. So those are going to be 3 of the new ones that I will be introducing this summer as I travel to different shows. But I want to say I've done probably 30 Star Wars characters, and then I've done Marvel and I've done Disney characters as well.
I wanted to show the audience, this was the very first piece I bought from Caleb, and it is not a dripping portrait. And it is a coaster.
Yeah, it's just a coaster.
And this is one of the reasons why I framed it, because I thought if I get 1 drop of anything on this thing and it gets destroyed, I am going to have a fit and a half. So this was my first. Yeah, it was my first Star Wars work of art that I actually framed.
That's
I
awesome.
have lots of art that I had bought before, but this one was really magical. And
I was making that right around the time, right before I started doing the sketch cards.
Interesting.
So
interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. It is in my office next to me, next to my computer every day of my life. I just adore this piece.
That's amazing. Well, I'm glad it has a good home. I'm glad it still is like in existence.
It's very happy. It's very happy here.
I have a question for you, Caleb. I know earlier you said, you only want to do work that you enjoy or things that you would want, framed or hung up.
Mm-hmm.
How do you decide? Is it just favorite characters, or do you think do people?
So as an example, I get asked all the time, do I have a Deadpool? Right. I don't have anything against Deadpool. Nothing at all. I like the movies. I like the character. He's just not someone that when I think like, man, what do I love about comics? Deadpool isn't one of the characters that comes to my mind. Right. I have to remind myself he exists. That's no slight to the character. It's just where I'm at with that character.
Yeah.
But for me, I remind myself when I'm tempted to do something that I just think will sell, I remind myself I was miserable doing that. I hated where I was going when I went down that path. And so I don't do it. Right. Yeah, so fair. I think when I'm considering what to do, I think about what am I excited about? Like, what do I want to do? If I'm going to spend 8 hours working on one of these pieces, what do I want to have at the end for my time? What do I want to show that I have worked on? How have I bettered myself in this process? That's what I think of. So when I think of that, I think Paz Vizsla, and I think the Armorer, and I think Commander Cody, because I love those characters and I love the universe that's in there. I've been wanting to do a Cad Bane. I've been wanting to do a Bosk. I've been wanting, there's a lot of characters I want to do. And I just don't know if I have time in my life to get to them all,
Well, maybe Nick and I can commission Cad Bane for you so we can have one.
Yes. I was going to say.
Because I would love a Cad Bane. Love a Cad Bane. There are very few bounty hunters that scare the shit out of me. Cad Bane scares the shit out of me.
Oh yeah, he means
an
it, man.
Animation character, he scares the shit out of me.
Yeah,
go ahead.
The way you were describing your favorite characters, you and I have a lot of the similar favorite characters, so that might be why your art speaks to me, because I love Mandalorians, I love clones, bounty hunters, like that's right up my alley. And
I have a question, and it's sort of related to what Nick just asked you. If I'm remembering correctly, your recent portrait of Revan, of Darth Revan, is the only Legends character that you have made. Is that correct, or is that incorrect? Okay.
No, it's correct. Yeah. In fact, I have also drawn on my drawn out and ready for paint a Darth Nihilus as well.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
And so that's one that will also be coming out at some point. As Lucasfilm is going back into the Legends and pulling characters like Thrawn back into canon, the video games being reintroduced as all part of canon. You know, you have characters that weren't now. Cal Kestis is this Jedi that we all know. And God, would I love a series on him. Going into the archives, I'm really hoping that characters like Revan and Nihilus, Starkiller, would all become canon. And I think we're close with Revan. I think Disney's pretty much like, you know, if we're going to develop this game, then if they're doing Knights of the Old Republic, then Malik and Revan are at least canon. Yeah. So there's all of this rich history that I think we're going to start seeing more of that if Disney and Lucasfilm want to keep the franchise fresh. You know, if we're almost or pretty much done with the Skywalkers, there's so much we can go back, you know, into the High Republic, which they're doing now, but even the Old Republic, we can, you know, let's go back, let's Tarantino the universe and see what happened way back then, you know.
And you know, with the Essential Legends books that have been coming out for the last 3 or 4 years, that they're sort of like officially creating this new series. It's sort of nice that Revan is part of your portraits. I love that.
I've loved Revan from the beginning, and when I first played Knights of the Old Republic back when it came out, reveal in the game where you're like, oh no, you are Revan, you know, at the end of that game, and you're like, oh, and he returns to the light. And I just thought the whole character is so powerful and so amazing.
He's fascinating. He's absolutely fascinating.
And he's got that Mandalorian mask that he acquired the mask, and so I was just like, this is super cool. I'm just forget it. It's time. I'm painting.
Here is
painting
one
Revan.
fan thanking you for doing the Revan one, because I saw, when you posted that, I'm like, what? Wait. That's a Revan. Oh my God, that's Revan. Oh my God, that's Revan. So I went like straight and just went to your site and bought it immediately.
Yep. I saw the order come in. I mean, it's like this is the entire operation, folks.
Like, boom.
I don't have like a shop full of children in the back, you know, who are packaging. Get faster! That order was to go out yesterday. You know, it's just me. I see him and I'm like, oh yeah.
No, it was.
You know, I sign them and package them up, and you know,
it was really amazing.
One question I would like to ask, maybe for our audience, more so than me and you, Carmelo, is, you know, what would you say to an inspiring artist? Like, is any tips or any kind of words of inspiration you can give to them going forward in their
just
future?
Like in general?
Yeah, just in general.
Okay. I remember when I was struggling and working through, like, I have where I want to be and the kind of stuff that I want to do in my head. And then I was always like, man, you know, I feel like I'm never going to get there. Right. I was really, really bad drawing faces, and at least to the way that I wanted to draw them. And so I remember one of my lessons was, if you're really bad at something, keep drawing it. Do it over and over and over again. I just decided, okay, so every time I'm stuck, I'm just going to draw a face. Doesn't matter. I don't need to be inspired to draw a face. Let me just go through the mechanics of drawing a face. So I just started drawing them by the hundreds. I was drawing them all the time, looking at things, finding the curves of like, oh, there's a little, you know, oh, there's a little bump on this nose before it comes down. And it's not just a, you know, a freaking straight line, you know, and let's add that into that. And let's find the curve under the nose, and let's find the way the lips jut out and all this stuff. Observe, critique your work, do it again. And that, you know, wash, rinse, repeat. Observe something, really spend the time to look at it, because when you do that, you'll find that the thing looks different than you perceive it to look. Your hand is a tool that your mind uses. So if you can see it and perceive it here, then it can come out of here, right?
Nice.
So develop your brain, right?
Yeah. Can you tell the people where they can find your work? And
yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you are surfing the web and you just want to see my like official site, which has like my tour dates when I'm at conventions and whatnot, it has you can buy stuff online there, and just see kind of a general catalog of some of my work. That's thecalebking.com. And I'm on Instagram as the Caleb King as well.
Awesome. And we'll post this when we post it on YouTube. So
Perfect.
it can be in the description of the show.
Yes.
So
Awesome. In the show notes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we had such a fun time.
Oh, guys, anytime.
No,
it was a blast.
Great. And congratulations with all of your stuff. And
thank you.
And you're going to San Diego in July, and
yeah, this will be my 4th time. I love San Diego. It's an indescribable show because it's like you inside the convention center, you'll be walking around and you'll be like, that's the best thing I've ever seen. Like literally stunned, like, whoa. And then you'll just like turn your head and you go, no, that's the best thing I've ever seen. And every aisle is like that. It's just like you can't, there's no room. It's like you think the ceiling has been reached and then something just blows right through that. And
wow. That's amazing.
Yeah,
so glad that you're part of that. So glad that you're part of that.
So am I. I'm very fortunate. I feel very fortunate to be there. So
that's wonderful.
Especially when there's so many other artists who deserve to be there, and then they're giving me a table. Like what?
Oh, don't sell yourself
come
short.
on, you're amazing.
Yeah, you're awesome.
No,
I appreciate that. I just try to keep
my a lot.
Well, thank you.
We do.
And I've always found it really original, which is why I just keep buying them, because they're just unlike anything else that I've seen in conventions. So,
well, thank you.
So
I appreciate that.
Thank you, audience. Thank you, Caleb. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, gentlemen.
May the force be with everybody.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.